49ers update. Deebo Samuel is back out on that practice field. Remarkable because he was hospitalized earlier this week with pneumonia, but Deebo is looking healthy, and I would say that he's very likely to play against the Dallas Cowboys. George Kittle, foot sprain, kept him out on Wednesday, also looking good and likely to play against the Cowboys. George Odom, who had missed practice on Wednesday, was back out on the field. However, no Juwan Jennings, which is interesting. The hip issue that he suffered against the Seattle Seahawks kept him out against the Chiefs. Kyle Shanahan had said that he expected Jennings to be back against Dallas, but since he hadn't practiced on Wednesday and Thursday, I think that's being put into a little bit of doubt. So maybe I collect some more information a little bit on Juwan Jennings, but that is not looking as rosy for the 49ers. Also worth mentioning that Kevin Givens, who's been notably good this year, he has stepped up while Javon Hargrave has been out. Givens, his pressure rate has gone from 7% to 12%, but he's been dealing with a groin issue, and he was not out at practice today for the 49ers. So he's missed Wednesday and Thursday. This team just signed a defensive tackle, Nesta Jade Silveira, to the practice squad. Former Raider, 7th-round pick, had been with the Raiders for a couple seasons, but was waived recently. And Nesta Jade Silveira is now with the 49ers. He's at his first practice today working with Chris Kacerek and company. They obviously need more depth at that defensive tackle position, and Nesta Jade Silveira on the practice squad is somebody who they can develop. They probably like some of that skill set. They might have talked to Herm Edwards about him. He transferred from Miami to Arizona State and played under Herm Edwards back in 2022. Herm was John Lynch's DB coach back in the day in Tampa Bay. So Lynch and Herm Edwards remain good friends. Herm obviously also coached Brandon Ayuk at Arizona State. But as far as the injuries go, the worst injuries, the most damaging ones that you can suffer when it comes to impact on play are the ones that happen after game planning has occurred. Because if you go through the entire week knowing that Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings aren't going to play, well, then you can give Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing practice reps in their roles. But when Brandon Ayuk tears his ACL in the middle of a game, when Deebo Samuel wakes up with pneumonia and can't go more than 4 plays, all of a sudden you're in a bind. All of a sudden Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing are having to play in roles that they didn't practice for over the course of the week. So even if Jennings can't go this week, I think the 49ers are going to be better positioned than they were last week when they didn't have Deebo Samuel and they lost him midstream and they lost Brandon Ayuk midstream. I think that the preparation time is important for guys like Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing, especially since they are younger players. So 49ers now, and by the way, to make room for Nesta Jade Silveira, the 49ers released Jonathan Garvin, defensive end who had been on the practice squad, so you only have 16 of those spots. They had let go of a player to make room for a defensive tackle. To me, it's notable that they did swap a defensive end for a defensive tackle. It shows you where this team's needs are a little bit more pronounced. They've gotten good end play this year. Leonard Floyd, above average pass rusher. Obviously, Nick Bosa's one of the greats in the game. But ever since Javon Hargrave has gotten hurt, they've been a little bit more thin at that defensive tackle position. Obviously, Jordan Elliott has dealt with a knee issue as well for the 49ers. So they felt the need to spruce up the interior, which I would say is probably an even bigger need than the exterior line when we talk about potential moves coming up at the trade deadline. D-line, I think, top of the list because that's where you have the biggest surplus of potential players. Got to always use more of them, especially on this team that has suffered some defensive line injuries on the inside. Obviously, people are going to talk about linebacker, but I think it's a lot harder to find a linebacker who's going to move the needle in a positive direction for you if you're the 49ers. Plus, you're hoping that Dre Greenlaw does come back over the course of the next few weeks. And then everybody will always say, well, I want a right tackle. These guys don't grow on trees, especially at that offensive line position. Teams don't trade good offensive linemen all too often, so it's really, really hard. That's why when we have a surplus of D linemen, especially versus the general lack of offensive linemen, you're going to see the D linemen in trades much more often. And then, people are going to be banging on the door wanting a trade for a receiver. I don't think that's as likely as a trade for a defensive lineman, especially for a star receiver. But I can't see the 49ers bringing in somebody like Kendrick Bourne if they trade with the New England Patriots, somebody with system knowledge who can help fill a number of different positions, because right now they're looking for as much flexibility in that receiving room. When they drafted Ricky Pearsall, this was a guy they said, well, he can play the slot, but he can also play the X because he's got really good speed. He could also play the Z position. He can be adaptable, and that adaptability helps fill out the puzzle whenever there are injuries. Last week, the 49ers needed Pearsall in 2 different spots. So I think anybody that the 49ers add, especially since you're thinking about how to withstand a long marathon of a season, anybody that they add is probably going to have to be an adaptable piece. That doesn't necessarily have to be a star player. It could be somebody like Bourne who's already familiar with their system. Cowboys, on the other side, we'll see if Micah Parsons is able to play for Dallas coming off the high ankle sprain. That's going to be the big news to watch on the Cowboys front this week. Again, not a good team this year on offense and defense. They're coming off a blowout loss, 47-9 to the Detroit Lions, where obviously neither the offense nor the defense was good, but the special teams has gotten it done for Dallas so far this year. So that's where the 49ers have to be extra careful, extra prepared in this game. Malik Turner's out on that field now. He's recently been signed to the 49ers practice squad. They might elevate him this week to be their gunner. With Chris Conley leading that receiver room now alongside Deebo Samuel, Conley might fill in for Brandon Ayuk at that X receiver position against the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. Anyway, I did write about that special teams issue up on the San Francisco Standard. Talking not about that, but also about the 49ers and where they stand right now as far as drawing on the track record of the past to turn around the 3-4 record of today. In the past, the 49ers faced, I would say, related issues. They weren't the same, but related issues at around this time of the year. Shanahan has been really good at making the tweaks necessary to turn seasons around. This year, if I had to make a checklist for the 49ers, I think they need to get a little deeper and stronger at defensive tackle so they better defend the run. They're number 26 against opposing run games this season. I think that the offense needs to, and I talked about this a lot in a live this morning, I think the 49ers offense needs to be better in the short game and in the quick kind of screen game to diffuse some of the exotic pressure and aggressive pressure that defenses seem to be dialing up almost specifically for the 49ers. And I definitely think that special teams has to get better to bind everything together. All right, that's the report today here from Levi's. 49ers healing up, not fully healthy. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is the name that we'll wait longer for, potentially week 10 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.